everybody, it's Lacey,
And I'm Lauren.
and welcome to another episode of the Lomas Podcast.
And today we are finishing up Serial Killer September because next week we're going to be into Spooky October. So this is our last week on serial killers. And we are doing some South Carolinians here. We are going to talk about Todd Kohlhepp and we are going to talk about Pee Wee Gaskins. Both are probably our most two infamous serial killers in the state. But real quick, I want to give a shout out to my friend Erin, who I believe watches this every week and who made fun of the way we pronounce words last week. So, hey, Erin.
And Erin, I love you dearly and I miss you, but you ain't got room to talk, homegirl, because you just as country as we are, if not worse.
But we do appreciate your support and watching, and we love you. And thank you for watching us every week. And maybe we will have you on as a guest when we talk about something sometime.
If we do that, I'm totally doing a segment of words for her to pronounce.
Maybe that can be like a random thing we start doing, like
Yeah.
hold up a word, say this.
Yeah. Myra listens to us all the time too, and she will comment and post. Myra was our roommate, a long friend of ours. I mean, we've known her almost all our lives, probably. But
grade.
Yeah, she's really invested, and we lived with her in college, and that's the State House calling me now. I'm telling Lauren that I'm supposed to speak at the State House next week, and they're calling me now. I'll call them back after.
What are you talking about?
It would get into politics potentially, so I will let you know after the recording.
You can give us a brief synopsis.
Okay. The new abortion bill. So I will be going to speak in opposition of that. And I will just leave it at that.
Oh, I didn't know if this was something like with criminal where you were speaking like, about reforms in our laws.
So one thing that the ban will, the new bill wants to do is be able to prosecute women for abortions, as well as being able to prosecute people who assist women in traveling out of state. So there are things that would cross over into the criminal world. So the new bill would allow for prosecution against somebody who aided and abetted somebody with an abortion out of state. So there are, and it's some of the things that bother me that are not political based. Well, maybe they are. I don't know if you feel that, if some people may feel that it is, honestly, but as a criminal defense attorney, those are some really concerning things.
So if I just drove somebody to a clinic in North Carolina, I could be arrested here in South Carolina for driving them to a North Carolina clinic?
Of course, it depends on how the statute is worded, right? I don't know what type of involvement they are looking to criminalize.
Well, I'm just thinking you get on like an Amtrak, which takes you across the U.S. You leave here. Is your Amtrak driver responsible because they aided and abetted you getting into a different state?
Yeah,
it's a slippery slope for sure.
It is. And like if somebody asks me for money and I don't know what it's for, and I give them a check and that they ask me for the amount it's going to cost, and that's what, I gave money for. I mean, you don't have the mens rea, right? I wouldn't have the intent to do that because I don't know what it's for. But also, if I did know what it's for and I paid for it, I don't like the government telling me what I can do with my own money and my own person.
Well, I guess from another point of view, like say you do go into North Carolina and you go, because North Carolina is very different on those laws. So like you go into North Carolina, you get an abortion performed at like the women's clinic. Does South Carolina have the right to go get your medical records to go into your privacy to see what procedure you had done?
That is what the new ban is as well. They want to be able to criminalize women who get abortions out of state. So that is part of it as well. Mm-hmm.
But does North Carolina have to comply and give them your records? I'm just using North Carolina just because it's bordering us.
Sure. Yeah. I wouldn't think so because we are separate entities. And I don't know how South Carolina would fight that, honestly.
We're getting into like interstate, which is the U.S. Constitution. So then we are getting back into the whole issue of states' rights, because then you're
Correct.
taking another state's rights away.
Away.
You
Correct.
as a
Yeah.
South Carolina state. Well, that'll be interesting. I know that
Yeah.
is. We normally don't talk politics, and I really don't think that was overly political. That is how a law is going to impact the criminal justice
True.
system
Yeah.
realistically, and how.
And people of both sides are going to be able to speak, right? So I will be able to give reasons, not just as a mother, as a woman, but as a criminal defense attorney. I think it's important to hear some concerns, like we were just talking about now, with how you're going to enforce stuff to make things right and fair. That's clearly questionable with some of the things they want to do, and
Well, because I
the other
think that
side will get
enters.
to voice their opinions as well.
I think that enters that, like, in general, a really slippery slope, because think about marijuana. So I get, like, for drug testing, if I go to Colorado and smoke pot, but my company has a no pot smoking, yeah, that's completely different. That's your private
Mhm.
work. But this would be like, hey, I went to Colorado, I got high, and because I got high in Colorado and I come back to South Carolina, they arrested me for getting high in Colorado. Like,
Yeah.
you're really
Yeah.
just taking out the
Well,
abortion content. That would be the same. I feel like you could use that abortion argument to change it into other arguments.
sure. And here's another thing. The new law would ban abortions for women who are raped. So if someone is raped and they're forced to keep the child, does that terminate your rapist's parental rights? Could family court, if the rapist father wanted to be um, involved in their child's life, does can they file in family court to co-parent?
Well,
Would
because
you be
they're the
forced to
dad.
co-parent with your rapist?
I mean, they're the
I mean,
dad.
the standard in family court is, to terminate rights, clear and convincing evidence.
And family court in South Carolina, which I think in most places is a court of equity, so they do have a lot more leeway and stuff. But what if this whole issue, I guess, would be the thing, what if this rapist was a stand-up person and everything, but the right, like,
mhm,
we people can be multifaceted. So he could be like this
correct.
great person, but rape somebody.
Yeah,
Then they're not a great person, but on paper, you know what I'm saying?
sure. And I'm not, but there's so many factors that just go into this. What if both of them were impaired, but the woman was more impaired? Um, and there's just really tense emotions, but then you're bringing in this law, and then you're exposing yourself to it's just messy. It
And
could
I
just be
think
really messy.
that's how we see how laws, like, we're not in a bubble with just criminal or just family or
Correct.
just like estate work. We all touch, while as attorneys, we really only practice in one
Hmm.
area. Laws touch more than just that one area because life is complex and messy.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know. I don't know that every family court would terminate somebody's rights based on that. What if it was dismissed because the victim just couldn't come to court and she was just so upset, and just
What if
couldn't
they were
face,
found not guilty,
or
but the
what if they were found
person,
not guilty?
I mean,
But
you
then the
never
woman
know.
still doesn't want anything to do with him because she still
Believe
stands
she
by
was
what
raped.
she said. And then there's this child in your first, I just can't fathom that. So,
It will
anyway,
be
so these are some of the issues that I would like our lawmakers to consider when voting on this bill.
So that'll be interesting to see how
Mhm.
this passes. But back to our topic today is, I think one of the biggest, like, creepiest serial killers for me is Todd Kohlhepp, because literally,
Huh, I thought you were going to say Pee Wee at first.
no, Todd
You
Kohlhepp,
think
because,
Kohlhepp's creepier than Pee Wee?
well, Kohlhepp was right here. I live in the upstate of South Carolina. He was right here in Spartanburg County. My law partner lives in the neighborhood near where he used to live. My old boss from Converse, who probably will never
Mm.
watch the show because he doesn't have social media or anything, he backed up to Todd Kohlhepp. So, like, I think because, like, and also Todd Kohlhepp was a realtor, and at this time,
And
right
he was a
after.
convicted sex offender.
Yes, but he was a
That
realtor,
bothers me.
so I used to do real estate law. So, like, this definitely touched on more areas, I think, because I literally
Mhm.
could have seen him in Target. and what made him pick the people he picked and didn't could have picked anybody. Like I think the
Mhm.
girl he picked was like his waitress at Waffle House, and they thought, she made fun of him or something. Like, I guess because it hit really close to home for me because while there's murders up here all the time, they don't feel as close to home. Like, especially not in a serial killer way. South Carolina is not a big serial killer area, I guess.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
guess
like we've said in this series before too, we just feel like there's not as many anymore. And honestly, other than Todd Kohlhepp, I can't think of another serial killer we've talked about on the show that was during our time, if that makes sense. Like, sure, the Golden State Killer was caught during our time, but his crimes and spree and that fear was in the 70s and 80s, and Pee-wee Gaskins was 70s, 80s. Eileen Wuornos was 80s, 90s.
I mean,
So
it's just
everything was kind of before we really understood serial killers because we were too young. So I can kind of understand why he would.
I guess for
Yeah,
us, there's been more mass murders. We have seen a lot of
true.
shootings. We have seen
So
movie
much.
theaters. We've seen
Hmm.
Dylan Roof was here in South Carolina and, killed innocent people in a church. So we've definitely seen a lot of mass killers. But
Right.
the serial killer, and I will say Todd Kohlhepp is one that, like we talked about, there are a lot of things he did, like coming out as a child, like he was cruel to animals. Like we've seen all of that. Um, but the thing that gets me with him is so in South, like in Spartanburg, we had the Superbike. I can't remember the store, but it was the bike murders, and that was pretty much a scene where somebody went in and killed like four people, I believe, working at the bike store, and it did not have the MO of a serial killer. Like it was pretty much like the mass murder type situation, went up and killed, or almost a robbing gone bad type situation. Nothing dealing with what we thought was a serial killer. And then after Todd Kohlhepp, so he killed multiple people and had buried them in his backyard pretty much. He kept the girl who was still alive, and she's actually sued him in the civil court, and I think got what he had of an estate left, but kept her locked up in like a containment type
Hmm.
shipping container. He also posted online, like if you go back now and see like on Amazon reviews and those type things, he posted what he was doing with this shipping container the whole time. Um, Now he didn't go to trial. He pled guilty in lieu of not getting the death penalty. Pretty much, he did a plea. But I think the thing with me with him is he is very different because he pretty much did a mass shooting and a serial killing, and he kind of had a like the Golden State Killer. It was like he had phases where he did stuff. Like he went dormant for a long
Right.
time,
Right.
and he was not like you hear about these serial killers blending into society. I think people were always a little creeped out by him. Is how it seems from. He was a
Well,
realtor, but he was like one where people were like, eh.
I feel like that is a theme though. Like they can fit in, but then also there's a good bit of people that are still like, you're trying a little too. There's still something off. Because even Ted Bundy, I feel like that was the case with some people. They were like, he's very nice and very, you know, can get along, but there were some creepy moments too. So I feel like that was on par. What bothers me is that he was a convicted sex offender. Um, and I think we kind of talked about this at one point. Like, all rape is bad. I'm not saying that, but I mean, this was a pretty brutal. There were other crimes as well on top of the rape, and he was convicted of that, and he spent time in prison in that. And at that point, someone should not be able to be a realtor because I do think there should be certain checks and balances with being in real estate. Because if you're a realtor, you're meeting with people in open spaces, open homes, and I do think there are some
Single women.
crimes with yeah, certain crimes that should bar you from holding a real estate license. If somebody was a drug dealer in their past and they haven't dealt drugs in 10, 15 years, whatever, and they want to be a real, like, that's fine. That doesn't bother me at all. But I think crime, violent crimes against women specifically, or children, I just don't think that's safe for somebody to have a real estate license. The fact that that happened is just disgraceful, honestly. And what do we have anything in place to make sure that's not happening again?
Well, you're supposed like to get your real estate license. You have to apply for, you do a test and everything, and then you have to apply for it. So like they have a governing board. Obviously, it's not probably as
Mm-hmm.
intense as what we go through as attorneys or possibly even doctors, but they probably need to look and do more sled, or if all they're doing is a sled check and not checking in other states or looking more deeply in
Sled
this
can
stuff.
catch other states though, because I've asked to have certain charges expunged before on a client, and their sled catch, so their South Carolina thing
Mhm.
makes them eligible, but then they pull the full NCIC, which is all states, and that makes them ineligible because they had a prior that they either forgot about it because it was so small and so long ago, or something like that. So yeah, SLED has access to that. They can run it like that. Solicitors can run an NCIC. I'm not allowed into the program, but solicitors can run it, and anybody in SLED can run it. Any cop can run an
But
NCIC to see what's out of state.
so I guess that's like what I'm saying is like, so when I go to apply for like a guardianship for a minor
Mm-hmm.
child, all I do is log on to SLED and put in information. Like I put in their name and their social and their maiden or
Yeah.
AKAs, and it just gives me a report. That would not pull from the other states,
No, that's a
correct?
SLED catch. It's $26. We run those a lot on people, but that is just your South Carolina criminal history.
So if they're just running that, they will not get anything. They need to up it and ask for a higher run for licensing, pretty much is what you're saying.
Yeah, and they limit who has access to those systems. Because, like I said, I get cases all the time, and I need the NCIC, right? Because there's certain diversion programs sometimes my clients are eligible for if they don't have any prior criminal history. I don't know that unless I have an NCIC, but yet they won't give criminal defense attorneys access to the NCIC system. So I guess maybe they should be able to submit it to SLED to, if they don't want to give us access to this system,
There should
which
be
I
a
can understand,
special way for SLED to run it.
right? And like a place where you submit it for them to run, and then them give it back to you, and maybe they can like white out or something personal information that's on, because that's, I do understand some issues with giving like the public access, because an NCIC has somebody's social security number on it,
Yeah, like for
for
sure. Like,
markers and
but if
stuff.
you're applying to be a realtor, you're already giving them your social. So it's not like that's private.
So, if you're convicted of a felony, which he was, you're federally prohibited from owning a firearm, right? That does show on a sled catch. So if I run somebody's sled catch, I'm pretty sure if I run the sled catch, I have seen before this person is federally prohibited from owning a firearm. I mean, maybe it's on there because the felony is here, but wouldn't you think if there was a felony out of state, that clause would still be on our state sled
Well, there
catch?
should be something because if you're going to buy a gun, that should show up nationally, right?
Correct.
Like
And see, they
if
can
I'm
access anything.
gun dealers,
They have to, wouldn't you think? Wouldn't you think they would be able to access any state?
I mean, I would
I mean,
think
if
if you're
somebody
like
was
licensed to
convicted of,
sell firearms, you have to do the check before they give it to you. So if somebody did have a felony,
yeah,
it should show up on whatever they ran on you in their system. I mean, it shouldn't be that hard to have better regulations on stuff, especially like I know it's hard because in this situation he did have a prior felony, so it should have been called. I will say there's situations where people. I watched this thing on Hulu. It was like a Dateline thing, but it was where a doctor was pretty much a pedophile and he passed all his licenses and everything because nobody knew he was a pedophile at the time. So he shouldn't have got his license if
right.
they had known. And obviously, when they
Yeah.
found out he was a pedophile, they revoked it. But in this situation, that should have been known if you're what you're saying. So he really, I don't know. Maybe we need to look into more stuff with LLR here in our state on how people are licensed. Because you definitely wouldn't want this person being a nurse or anything either if they, have raped somebody.
And I can't imagine it happening there. I feel like with just the real estate, I think they just didn't dig as in depth as they would with a nurse because they're thinking, well, this isn't medical,
Well, this
maybe
isn't
they did just the $26 sled catch and didn't go any further, but that's not okay. That's not acceptable.
because it is a position of trust, and
Correct.
like, and I think he worked for a company. It wasn't like he had his own real estate firm. He was working for I don't know which one.
Yeah.
They kind
Yeah.
of switching gears from him to Pee Wee Gaskins. Pee Wee Gaskins killed a lot more people. Most of who he killed, if y'all don't know this, was usually prostitutes,
Mhm.
criminals. He was smart in the way he killed, as he killed people that nobody was going to notice if they were missing a lot of times.
He did kill some people that he knew, but he also killed a lot of strangers. And my stepdad, my former stepdad, my sister's father, claims to have met him, which is possible, but he also lies a lot, so it's also not possible. But he hung around with a rough crowd back in the day. And so I wonder if it's true or not.
Well, with Gaskins, I just was trying to look up. He is from the low part of the state, so he lived down there. It says Florence County, so the low part of the state.
Yeah.
He pretty much, I mean, I think he says he's killed like 80 something people. If
He
it's,
claimed he was in the hundreds, but they said that that was never substantiated and they don't really believe him. But he did have a rough childhood. He was sexually abused multiple times in multiple different situations. Apparently, he didn't even know his real name, until he was older. So he was always smaller, of small stature, and he got picked on a lot. That's why his name is Pete. That's why they called him Pee Wee, because of how small he was. His real name was Donald Henry Gaskins, but he always went by Pee Wee. And you know what's crazy? So apparently he claims like he did not know his real name Donald until his first court appearance when he got in trouble. And my stepdad, former stepdad, that claims to know him is the same way. He did not know his real last name until high school.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me, especially back in the day with
Wow.
this type stuff, because what Pee Wee Gaskins, it was in the six. When was his birthday? 1933, and he was killing
Yeah.
in like the 60s. I mean, he probably never had seen a birth certificate. I mean, it was a different world back then. They didn't have the access
Right.
to stuff we did. One thing about him, he did get in jail, and then he ended up killing another person while in jail.
While in jail.
He, yeah, he also was not. I think he escape one time too,
Mhm.
and he also
As
we
did my former stepdad.
Okay, we need some work on our prisons here, because he
Well, he
was
hadn't
on death
attempted it.
row and he
No.
was eventually executed, but it took a long time to execute him, because we had a hold on the death penalty during that time. So he
Correct.
was in jail. I mean, he didn't die till 1991, and he'd been sitting in jail for what, 30 years at that point?
Now, I do think he wrote a memoir. And I'm pretty sure my best friend's dad read it. And I think I saw some quotes from his memoir. He can't make money off his crimes. Does he get to dictate who it goes to? Or I think you said it goes to the victims' families or
I
something?
think I think, like, like the victims' families could have done a civil lawsuit to get the fees. I don't really know exactly, because he had so many victims, and like at the end of the
Right.
day, like, I don't know how exactly his part of everything worked. I'm just trying to look and see about his. He was named the meanest man in America.
Correct. He was
They only
not.
confirmed 15 victims, though, just so we know what was actually confirmed, but he claimed
Mhm.
110.
And there was one woman that they found her bones. And I don't know if he was convicted of her murder or just connected, but they transported the bones and they got lost, and they actually found them this April at College of Charleston.
Wow.
Yeah.
There were some reasons Pee Wee Gaskins also killed. He was a racist and killed a woman because she got pregnant by a black man.
And
Pretty
killed
sure he
her
was,
baby who was or her toddler who was biracial. He
um,
drowned both of them.
I think that he's had issues with homophobia, I'm pretty sure, too, in parts of this.
Yeah.
But I will say he was represented by some of the top criminal defense attorneys in this
Was it
state.
Jack?
Jack Swirling was one of
I thought
his
so.
people. I mean, I think with him, that's always probably going to be our most prolific serial killer out there from the state, and I hope so.
And you know
Um,
who prosecuted him on the death penalty case?
who?
Dick Harpootlian, who represented Alec Murdaugh.
Murdaugh.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And he
I mean,
has a
so
book about Pee Wee coming out in December. So, Mr. Harpootlian, this is your plug from the Llamas podcast that you have a book coming out in December. So, if you want to come on this podcast and share more about Pee Wee Gaskins, this is also your invitation with your book plug.
well, and I also think with Pee Wee Gaskins, it was like if there was a gene for a serial killer, he definitely had it because he states that he had to just like go satisfy this urge to kill.
Yeah.
Like there was that.
And so many of our serial killers, like Ted Bundy, only killed women, right? Now the Golden State Killer killed both, but he really only targeted women. It was just
He
at
killed
one
their
point he went
husbands.
through. I hate to say a phase, but when he did killed the husbands, but the main thing was women. Pee Wee Gaskins just wanted to kill people. He didn't care if it was male or female. He just
Age.
wanted.
He didn't have like it wasn't like he killed people, as young as like children all the way to adults.
To
I mean,
right.
it wasn't like there was like he didn't have a type, I guess you would say.
Mm-mm. Yeah. And I mean, Eileen Warno's targeted men, the opposite sex. So, but yeah, Pee Wee was just horrible. I mean, it was just, like you said, that's all he wanted to do, it seems.
But pretty much he spent most of his years in jail at the end after his 20 years of killing. He had some trials. I think he ended up pleading on some of them. And then you go kill a man while you're sitting in prison. I mean, he got money for that supposedly. But that was pretty much him. A terrible, horrible person that really didn't have a type. I guess after all of this, we've seen like, yeah, we try to like say serial killers have this like type or
Right.
motive, and you see some people are never going to fit into that box, like because
Yeah.
he was just like, I just got to kill. And I
Yeah.
think from all this we have seen, definitely with the serial killers, there is a type of the fact that they're typically mean to animals, which I think if
Right.
somebody's mean to animals, that should tell you enough about them from the get go. But overall, there are not as many like, there's not one size fits all, I guess. Like,
Mm-mm.
we have seen all the different types of people who have killed and what their motives are, who continue. Pee Wee Gaskins was going to kill till the day he died, pretty much.
Correct.
There was never
No
going to be
doubt.
a in remission, I
No.
guess.
No. I will say most serial killers are white men, though. That is something that most of them have in common.
Yes, there are not many women serial killers at all. I mean, we're looking, you gotta go back to the 1800s, and some of them were killing back then. But
Right.
no, I mean, like realistically, in women, honestly, women aren't the most murderers in general either. Like, it's
White
men.
men are mostly the mass shooters, too.
Mhm.
So,
I think I think we learn how to control our emotions a whole lot better.
it's not what we keep hearing in the world.
I
We keep
mean, there's
hearing that we
days.
can't control our emotions, and that's why we can't be in charge of stuff. But
Well, let me just tell you, who started all the world wars was not women.
yeah,
So we don't tend to murder as much, and we're not serial killers. Now I don't know about theft. I mean, I don't know what happens there, but for the big crimes, it's not usually women.
nope, nope, not us. So I think that wraps up, like you said, at our Serial Killer September series that we have done. So now we're going to dive into some spooky stories into that series in October. So join us next week to start that.
And it'll be the Amityville horror case next week, which I'm really excited for. And if you have time before next week, go watch the one with Ryan Reynolds, and then you can watch the really old one. So definitely go watch those, and we're going to talk about it.
All right, I'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.